W and Ella Review. Today we are going to be reviewing two movies, Jaws 3D and Jaws 4. I'll let my mom start us off.
This is part 2 of our last video.
Yeah.
We did Jaws and Jaws 2. Anyways, to get started, Jaws 3D. What can I say? It's very, very cheeseball. The video or the
Special effects.
yeah, they were special effects, all right. It was awful. And the only reason I could think that they did the way that they did it was because it was supposed to be 3D. But even at that, it was really, really bad. If you don't know the Jaws franchise, I don't know where you've been. I am 47 years young, and I have seen Jaws movies many times. So if you haven't, I don't know. I just don't know.
She doesn't know.
Anyway, Jaws 3D is the third in the succession of these movies. Again, they probably should have left it at the first movie, and that would have been good enough. But because they had such great ratings from the original movie and scared everybody's pants off, they, I guess, thought that doing this in 3D would be even better. It was not. It starts off and the movie has very loose storyline. Michael, who plays the boy Michael, who is the older boy of Brody. Brody is his last name. I don't know what his first name is. Anyways, he's grown up now and he's living in Florida, I guess. I don't remember. Anyway, he's living coastal area. Anyway, and he and his girlfriend work for the aquarium area. Aquarium? Yeah. Anyway, and they start to notice that there is a shark that is in the tanks with the dolphins, and then there's like things start to happen, and
people get eaten.
Yeah, people get eaten, and kind of the same premise as the last two movies. It is not much different, minus the sad 3D. I mean, out of all the Jaws movies, I think that's probably one of the worst ones. This one. Excuse me. I really don't have a lot of good to say about this particular movie because it was not. I don't think they put a lot of energy into it. In the first movie, they had I can't think of his name. The fella that played Brody. They had him, and they had Richard Dreyfuss, and they had some other characters that were in the movie. And as the movie went on, the movie franchise went on. There, like in this movie, Jaws 3D, Dennis Quaid is in the movie. He plays Michael, and that's about the only, as far as I can, recognize star. So I mean, has that's about the only that and Louis Gossett Jr. plays in the movie. And those are maybe the only two selling points that are in the movie. I mean, the premise is good. I think that the execution of the movie would have been done a lot better if they would have had, if they would have waited to put Jaws out now and do CGI and do a really good job. I mean, there are some bad CGI movies, let's face it. But I think if they would have done that, or if they do decide to do Jaws, hey, anybody know that doing a new movie, this would be a good one to redo. I mean, all the Jaws movies. I don't think that they really put a lot of thought into this movie. It seemed to me, like it was just kind of thrown together last minute. And maybe I'm wrong, but it just seemed that way. There was really very little storyline that really kind of was cohesive. I mean, the only kind of cohesiveness about it was that Michael, who is now looks completely different than the other Michael, and that was about the only thing, Michael Brody. And the rest of it was like, it was just kind of added in there, sprinkled in there. And so I don't think I would recommend this for anybody to watch. I mean, if you want to giggle, maybe, watch it with your teenager or watch it by yourself. I'll let my daughter tell you what she thought.
It was bad. I just avoid it. In my opinion, the acting was pretty bad for the most part. The special effects were bad. The 3D was bad. And the 3D was the selling point of the whole movie. And it was bad. The premise was bad. It was slightly different from before. I mean, of course, it's all going to be similar in that there's a killer shark. I mean, that's the whole point of the series. They changed it up a little bit, but it was only really location that was changed. And it's like still the idea of person in charge is reluctant to actually do anything of substance because they're like, oh, this aquarium is just up and running, and then they decide, oh, let's catch the shark and make it a new attraction. And they catch a shark, but it's the baby, and then it just causes more problems. And it's like, okay, it's basically the same premise every time that, okay, there's a shark attack, there's something going on with the shark, and whoever is in charge in that area just decides to make really, really bad decisions. And you'd think they'd learn, but they never do. And it's just bad. Just don't take the time to watch it. It's bad.
Oh.
Well, then we won't talk about the fourth Jaws.
Oh yes, the fourth Jaws.
It's not called Jaws 4. It's
called Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah, I think so.
Jaws the Revenge is a little bit better than Jaws 2 and Jaws 3D. It does have a little bit more storyline-ish. The younger boy, Sean, I think was his name, he ends up being, just like his dad, a patrol cop on the island where they live. And the movie starts out, there's some guys, some couple of local yokels that are just kind of, being stupid, and they've heard that there was this shark, maybe, possibly, but they weren't really sure, so they decided to go in this little dinky boat and take matters into their own hands, and then they get pulled over the boat and, of course, get eaten. And the wife of one of the men calls the police department and wants to know where her husband is because she can't find him, and she's mad because she can't find her roast. So then this young man goes in here. I sound like an ancient old woman. Then this guy, Sean, goes into the patrol boat to go look for these two guys. And he ends up going and finding a dinghy that's kind of not working like it's supposed to in the water. It's like kind of sitting cattywampus and it's not sitting right. Anyways, as he's trying to figure out what's going on, the boat gets
Struck. Struck.
Struck, yeah. I couldn't think of the word. Gets struck, and then he ends up. He's got something. He's like a wire or rope or something, and he's pulling on this to try to figure out what's going on with the dinghy. And as he's got his arm down, the shark comes up and bites off his arm, and he's of course bleeding profusely. And then of course the shark, Jaws, comes up and grabs him and pulls him under, and then also then grabs the whole boat and takes it under. Well, okay, this same kind of idea happened in Jaws 2, but it was the patrol helicopter.
Yeah.
But this is kind of where the movie starts. It's right here where Sean gets eaten after these two other guys get eaten, and then things kind of, start to snowball. And then, similar to the other movies as far as things happening out in the middle of the ocean, kids are riding these little water toy things, and they're doing things like that. Well, this little girl who ends up being the granddaughter, she ends up, she's on one of the little boat things, or little water toy things, and she's out there when the shark attacks them, and ends up, she gets, deathly afraid. Well, I think I would be too if a shark was like within inches of my backside. So I mean, you can definitely see that there is there's a little bit more storyline. There's a little bit, but as you realize that the mother, Brody's wife, and I can't remember his first name, but that guy that played in the first two movies, they killed off his character somewhere along the lines, and they said he had a heart attack, saying that he had a heart attack because he couldn't figure out why this shark what was going on. Well, his wife, the mother of these two boys, realizes that this shark is out for blood, for her family, for her husband who died of a heart attack, and her two boys, and herself. And if this shark can't get her boys, he'll get the next generation, which was her granddaughter. And it is really ridiculous the way that it was done. At the same time, it's kind of, somewhat, you can kind of go, okay, well, maybe it was sort of believable with a head tilt kind of thing. I will say it is probably hands down a lot better than Jaws 3D. I would not recommend this for younger children. If you want to watch this by yourself, or you want to watch this with teenagers, go for it. Be forewarned, blood. There's Jaws. It's blood. Hello. So if you don't like things like that, don't watch these movies. don't know what else more I can say. If you haven't seen the Jaws movies franchise, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you have, then you are well aware. And I will now let my daughter tell you what she thought.
I don't agree with my mom necessarily in that it's better than Jaws 3D. It's about the same in my opinion. They're both pretty bad. I mean, the special effects were about the same. The acting was maybe a little bit better, but the premise was terrible in my opinion. It's like, oh, it's out for blood. Yeah, it took you long enough to figure that out. It was like we already pretty much figured it out by Jaws 2 when it's like, oh, the shark is after them again. It's like clearly the sharks or whatever their
Descendants
or something. And it's like, okay, so basically you're running out of ideas for this franchise and you're just gonna throw something together with lots of random bits, like Brody's wife, the mother of Michael, starting to fall in love with one pilot guy. It's like, okay, he ends up coming in handy later, but it's like that was kind of somewhat useless to the storyline. And there were a lot of parts that ended up being like that were practically useless to the storyline in this movie. There were actually comparing it to the other Jaws movies, very few times where they actually showed the shark. And it was like more focused around the characters, which normally I would say, oh, well, that's good for a movie. But when your whole premise is the sharks and all, it's like, no.
Yeah.
It was just bad. I didn't like it as much. I didn't like it really at all. It was about the same as Jaws 3D for me. Like in our previous video, I said Jaws 2 was okay. They really should have stopped at one Jaws movie. Jaws 2 was tolerable, and then the last two Jaws movies, in my opinion, were just awful. They really shouldn't have continued this series. But that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Not much more.
Anyway. But huge shout out to Marion, also known here on YouTube as Life Unboxed. Thank you for joining our Patreon. Links in the description box if you guys are interested.
With that, we will see you guys next week.
Bye.